So a very good afternoon to all of you. I'm Gaurav Mishra. I'm responsible for technology evangelization for the geospatial application segment. We've been talking about processing, from very different technical domain perspective, but I would like to kind of address processing in terms of how does it impact the turnaround time and the decision time for any for any professional or end user for whom time is significant. I've been interacting through the conference. Yesterday we were at NRSC holding a technology day with all the end users out there, and we realized that the real-time processing or shortening the time to process is the key for them to take a decision which is timely, and key to take a decision which helps them to reduce their turnaround time. So I would be broadly discussing about the challenges that we feel from a processing front, accelerated computing, what is this new paradigm which has actually changed the landscape for many domains, and geospatial happens to be one of those. Benefits of GPU computing. We all know Nvidia from the legacy of graphics and from a gaming part, but around 7 to 8 years down the lane, our think tanks thought that the same pipeline could be used for processing. And that is where we entered this segment. I would also talk about the GeoIn platform very quickly and give you a feel of large-scale visualization projects that we have done across the country or rather across the globe. And then finally, graphics virtualization. While we interact with many end users, we see that our ability to create this vast amount of data has outpaced our ability to actually leverage the wealth of information it has in terms of computing more parameters out of it, getting more relevance out of it, and just not archiving it and giving it some historic significance. So until recently, the idea of having this real-time access to the geospatial information was slightly hard. We had those long time durations, long cycles, where a lot of time was spent on processing, and before the end product would come to the end user, a lot of time was spent. And as such, getting insights to GIS by real-time analysis is very critical, whether it be forest fire detection, whether it be wildlife migration, which is a very computationally intensive domain, whether it is natural disaster management, line of sight calculation for defense, or whether it is kind of monitoring cyclone movements and other weather phenomena happening. So this is just the same thing. This poses a question: our current systems that we're using by our desk side or in our data centers, are they enough to handle the data deluge that we are facing, to make use of this vast quantities of data that are collected? The answer is, was till yesterday, it was kind of slightly challenging to us, but now the answer is very much yes. So accelerated computing, which I'm going to talk of, is right here. It's been adopted in almost all the major data centers in the country. It's been adopted globally. You can see a few of those kind of trends that have happened over the last 2 to 3 years, where we are at a growth rate of 44%. And we have applications which are almost more than 272 now. 242 is around 3 months old data. And where we have a market share of almost 98% and 85%. So the golden question comes: what is accelerated computing? Traditionally, all of us have workstations which we use on simple GPUs, but GPUs have hit their limit in terms of accommodating the number of cores or in terms of the compute capability. So this new paradigm, as I told you before, was introduced around 8 years back, where we launched a coprocessor or an accelerator which could take the compute-intensive task, offload it to itself, compute, and give it back. And the result was almost 10 to 40 times more performance, reducing time by a factor of 10x. And this is what I have to show you in a couple of my slides. So we have this 2 to 20x performance in geospatial that we have seen. And we have multiple other domains: satellite imaging, video enhancement, aerodynamic CFD, computer vision, signal processing, stealth and antenna designing into defense, which have experienced massive acceleration on these applications. So there is this catalog which is available on our website, which basically lists all these applications which have been ported onto this GPU accelerator. Many applications from geospatial, including ArcGIS and SimActive, and quite a few of them are also available. So today we have with ourselves a partners called GeoAPC, wherein we have designed a complete workflow for the geospatial industry. Where the input data could come from satellite, aerial, or UAVs, it is processed on a platform called GeoGPU, which is basically a workstation that is powered with these accelerators. And then the end result and then you have the precision output in form of DEMS, or ortho rectification or mosaic. So what we've seen is, like, if you were to have 1,000 images with a resolution of 20 centimeters and a frame size of 150 megapixel, and if you were to do all the aerial triangulation, the DSM, the DTM, and the ortho photos and the ortho mosaic, it took just 113 hours. Now, this is almost 10 times less time when compared to running on a regular workstation with only CPUs. So the net is massive DEMS and ortho mosaics could be created only within a matter of hours, which took multiple days and at times more than a week as well. So this was done with an application called SimActive. Now the question is, there is a basic question that comes to our mind, is how does this GPU acceleration works? So typically any application, any GIS application or any other application has two components to it. One is basically which is inherently serial, which can kind of be processed on CPUs. And the other component is basically which is inherently parallel or can be parallelized. So this compute-intensive parallel portion of the code, which is depicted by green lines here, could go to the GPUs. They're scheduled to run on these accelerators or the GPUs, and the rest of the sequential can still run on the CPU. So this is how the acceleration is achieved. And how do you do it? You do it through multiple kind of platforms, through libraries, through programming models, through OpenACC models, and through multiple other methods. So what we've shown here is, by simply replacing a few libraries in an application, which could be OpenCV or fast Fourier transforms or the performance primitives, the performances could really be scaled up by a factor of 12x with the same kind of power bracket and the same performance and the same component set. So if you were to look at the impact of GPUs today, most of these applications, if you were to look at PCI Geomatics or Digital Globe, most of the data that is being churned out by Digital Globe today is being kind of processed onto GPGPUs. And RSC uses GPGPUs for kind of Digital Globe data processing. We've got other applications also which are very common in the areas of video analytics, video enhancement, and remote sensing, which are basically accelerated and available. Keeping this in mind, while cutting on the processing time was very important, we introduced a complete all-in-all platform called the GeoEnt platform, which comprised of the applications which are listed, which comprised of all the tools which are needed for accelerating the application, which could be in form of libraries, programming models, fast Fourier transforms, the MATLABs of the world, and we also provided the complete system. So many institutions have got benefited with it, and we do encourage anyone who's facing that crunch on processing time to get in touch with us, and we could kind of find out or customize a solution with our partners and application vendors together. This is just one of those examples of Digital Globe, where they've experienced almost 12x performance gain on the ortho rectification runs that they've done as compared to CPU-only machines. And this was highly useful. The image analysis is almost otherwise impossible to do it on a real-time basis when you are handling situations like disaster management. This is another live example for the Biloxi Ocean Springs Bridge. After this Katrina happened, I mean, the Google Maps still showed a complete full-form, kind of full-fledged bridge, which would be seen on the left-hand side of it, whereas the real ortho-rectified image on Digital Globe showed the real situation out there. This was done using GPGPUs, and this was done almost near real time after the event happened. So I would just like to quickly sum up in terms of how do GPUs benefit. You get better application performance. You get turnaround times which are very low. You get better performance per watt if you're experiencing, if you have bigger systems or if you plan to do bigger systems like NRSCs and SACs of the world in the country. Your footprint is reduced. You can just have a personal supercomputer just right by your desk and see kind of leverage the performance gains that are brought in together by these applications and GPGPUs. And of course, it brings in the best value for money, of course. We have all our OEMs. I mean, if you were to look at, or if you were to look at the whole ecosystem, because globally we are so prevalent, and it's like we have all the major OEMs, HPs, Dells, Fujitsu, Supermicros, Tians of the world, wherein the solution is available. Coming on to the visualization part, this has been a legacy solution area for Nvidia. If you look, I mean, visualization is very important. I mean, the dot here basically signifies one portion. And if you were to look at it, if you were to have multi-displays, which are today enabled by Nvidia Quattro cards, I mean, you could kind of seamlessly kind of mosaic all these without bezel intervention to get a multi-display unit. And this only gets better. We have these high-resolution stereoscopic 3D displays at the key sites in India, of the ONGCs of the world, and NRSC and SACs, where they're using a technology for immersive environment for 3D display. And now we've introduced something called remote visualization. We all have heard, if you are aware of the virtualization revolution that started almost 6-7 years back. We brought virtualization onto the graphics chip. You can have a central data center with these grid cards from Nvidia, and you could generate you could render your images in this data center, and the visualization could happen from your thin clients. It could be your desktops, it could be your smartphones, it could be your tabs. Your data stays at a central point, and all the visualization information could be transferred through it. So I would like to conclude with it. I try to make it short in terms of geospatial applications would be used more and more. As the data sets get bigger and bigger, it will be vital for agencies to adopt to these pressures and invest in equipment that can give them rapid mission support through real-time information. And by using this massively parallel architecture of GPUs, we are of a firm belief, and it is showing now that it's possible to take steps in the direction. Thank you so much.